The skywalk, he swore, was closed to the public. The calendar square arrived at 6:12 p.m., neat as a polished pane. Founders, reception, Eon Museum, late. 2 minutes later, Julian texted, "Don't wait up." Facilities asked me to check a vibration sensor on the skywalk after speeches. Proud of me. Read he spends the heart when the rest of the sentence wants diplomatic immunity. I turned the sauce to the kind of simmer that calls itself maturity and looked toward the Eon's glass prow. At dusk, the museum wears light like intent, the suspended bridge, a silver eyelash over the atrium's throat. The square on my phone pulsed once and then behaved. I rinsed an already clean spoon because sometimes unnecessary is the only honest verb available. At 6:29, a number I didn't recognize sent a message that recognized me anyway. If the reception, on the mezzanine, why did he just badge the skywalk? Service stare behind the restoration lab. Reader hates witnesses, cover it and lean. I can hold sweep 2 minutes. Signed with a single letter, N, as if the alphabet had leaned on a crate and promised not to rattle. Noah runs nights at the Eon the way a good hand runs a violin. Quiet, precise, uncredited. He and Julian trade competence in a dialect of locks and leniencies. He and I have shared 2 cigarettes beside the freight dock, and once a laugh sharp enough to make a camera blink as if glass had learned to blush. We have not touched. I remember not touching more clearly than most men remember vows. "Why tell me?" I wrote. "Because your calendar is polite and my badge logs aren't," he sent. Because he looked up before he swiped. People only look up there when they want oxygen. Because closed to the public is keep out, the way champagne is hydration. The service stare smelled like solvent pretending to be history. I palmed the reader's sulking eye and leaned. The lock remembered mercy and yielded. The stare corkscrewed to a hush where even air had opinions. The door gave into the skywalk with the manners of glass deciding to trust you. He was where Noah said he'd be. Midway above the atrium, jacket off, shirt open 1 button past credible, tie rolled into his pocket like a plausible denial. Opposite him leaned Marcus Vale, developer, board vice chair, roomer with a mezzanine and a mirror. 2 of Marcus's fingers rested on the tension cable with casual entitlement. The other hovered near Julian's wrist without landing, because proximity photographs better than contact when your brand buys daylight and invoices discretion. "Closed looks conversational," I said. Julian turned. For a beat the truth used his face like glass before it reflects. Then the public version arrived, posture, breath, the tone you save for rooms that clap at their own echo. "Ari," he said. How did?" "Noah likes nouns," I said. "I like doors." Marcus smiled in the register of patron saints. "We were reviewing oscillation," he said. "Benefactors delight in feeling the building keep its balance." "I prefer balance that doesn't need an audience," I said. Julian took 1 step toward me and let the bridge keep the second. "We were listening for a rattle in the anchors," he said. He wanted to hear the air without speeches. "Sound is persuasive," Marcus said, opening both hands like tasteful parentheses. 2 minutes. The sweep is punctual, my driver is tolerant. He drifted toward the glass cradle and examined his reflection as if steel owed him flattery. As he passed, 2 fingers tapped Julian's shoulder, punctuation, not possession. Julian watched me the way men watch weather when they hope thunder has found another address. "I was going to text you," he said, lower now, in the register he keeps for mornings and the soft under my jaw. "After. I wanted to know I could leave this room without letting it rename me." "You wanted to be caught," I said. "Not punished, caught." He let a breath out, and the cables agreed to stop remembering us for a second. There is a height at which grammar resigns. I stepped into his space and put my mouth on his because glass can lie and mouths shouldn't. He kissed back with the relief of a man who has been paying interest on restraint, compounded nightly by applause and posture. He tasted like gala bourbon and the clean ache of conditioned air. My thumb found the hinge of his jaw and pressed. He made the small, involuntary sound I keep receipts for. His palm slid under my shirt and settled flat between my shoulder blades like a promise that refuses notarization. We didn't undress. The bridge charges extra and cameras learn quickly. He broke the kiss first because he knows the exact second heat applies for narrative. He set his forehead to mine. Somewhere a damper changed its mind and settled. I didn't kiss him, he said. I wanted to want to, I texted Noah. You did, I said. He prefers oxygen to salvage. Marcus tilted his head the way men do when they mistake transparency for consent. He didn't approach. The museum's bones remembered their duty. Come home, Julian said. After I thank the person who hears doors, I said. Noah waited where the bridge gives itself back to the service hall, lanyard looped over 2 fingers, the patience of a man who makes structure pretend kindness. He didn't smile. He also didn't make mercy expensive. Sweep hits the span in 90, he said. If you don't want to explain your lives to a flashlight that knows your shoes, take the lab stair to loading, cut through crates, out by receiving. The alley cam believes every bin is a bin. You sent the message, I said. I opened a door, he said. You two remembered how to walk. Receiving smelled like rain tutoring cardboard. The alley had learned discretion from the backs of galleries. We chose sidewalks over lobbies because lobbies write captions. At home, the sauce forgave me for mistaking patience for character. We ate standing, like mammals who know where the bowls live. He told me Marcus had been sculpting a compliment into a proposition for weeks, and he had helped because selection feels like love when usefulness empties your pockets. I told him Noah had texted because some people choose air over alibi. He didn't ask whether Noah and I had ever been a worse idea. I didn't say how a green exit light turns Noah's mouth into punctuation that finally understands itself. We didn't fight. There wasn't theater left to sell. Later, in bed, we left a sliver of cool like a reservation and let it surrender because the night had already billed us for restraint. He kissed me with the steadiness I trust more than policy. I put my mouth where his jaw goes humble and told it a morning. It was heat without spectacle. The building minded its breath. The city rehearsed forgetting our names and we allowed it. Morning behaved. Coffee made its case. The calendar square for tonight stayed blank, which in this town is the kink we can afford. Julian tied a tie over a throat I intend to retire with patience and kissed me like the door already knew our names. He left to explain stability to a breakfast that confuses skylight with virtue. At 9:17 a text arrived from a number saved as one letter. No span cam saw anything but glass. I looped a damper test for 20. Consider it training. I sent, you're very proud of your training. He replied, I'm proud of your exit. No punctuation correct. By noon, a culture blog posted Marcus haloed in champagne near the atrium's edge, captioned with stewardship and vision. I scrolled past. It wasn't our room. At 1:23, Julian sent a picture of our kitchen plant basking in a modest square of sun. Room exists, he wrote. The week pretended to be a program you could trust. Marcus sent a revised pledge with fewer adjectives and more commas. Julian read until commas behaved like a harness and set it face down. He pressed his forehead to my temple for 7 exact counts. The air remembered its job. 2 nights later, the museum hosted Night on the Bridge. Honest wristbands, real families, children learning that height can be generous. We went together, because sometimes the correct grammar is plural. Noah nodded once from a shadow like an usher who knows applause doesn't weigh enough. Marcus shook Julian's hand while a photographer tried to make glass confess. A reporter asked about legacy. Julian pointed to a maintenance tech kneeling to show a boy how to tighten a coupler without scolding and said, "Legacy is what keeps rooms gentle." And the reporter wrote it down like she'd earned a truth. On the walk home, we cut along the tramline where sparks study patience. Julian slid 2 fingers into my back pocket in the way that says not mine but here, and the knight did the decent thing and looked away. We burned the bread and ate it anyway. At the bedroom door he kissed me the way good sentences land, without ornament, unavoidable. I answered as if verbs were the last honest currency. It did not stay tidy. It never does here. An anonymous account posted a grainy still from a service cam, 2 silhouettes framed by glass, one hand too near to be polite. The caption invented entanglement, the comments rented outrage and billed by the breath. I set my phone face down beside the plant and watched the plant win. Julian texted a different image. The loading dock at noon, Noah showing a teen volunteer how to listen to a bearing with a stethoscope, while an acceleration plot confessed contentment. "Our version works for a living," he wrote. Sunday arrived with rain that had names for everything. Noah texted, "Bridge is quiet. Want a stool where nobody sells you a seat?" We went. He poured us paper cups of coffee that tasted like competence and showed us which sensor lies first, why you never trust a door that apologizes, and the tiny change in pitch that means the steel wants kindness. He didn't flirt with anything, not even the truth. He stood with his hands in his jacket pockets and told us a joke about rich men who think transparency is a metaphor. I liked him better for refusing to be necessary when he didn't need to be. Midweek, the foundation staged a press moment to announce scholarships for structural tech apprentices. Julian spoke first, about bolts and volunteers and the joy of maintenance, the only speech that ages correctly. Marcus promised to help the city meet its hours on time, a sentence that managed to spend nothing and still collect applause. After, he shook Julian's hand and then looked at me with the careful respect of a man evaluating whether he cannot purchase. "You're both very good at exits," he said. "Practice," I said. He laughed because it was the only honest thing left on his card. A columnist with an adjective habit suggested Julian's access came courtesy of private tour. The piece included a photo of glass that could have been any glass and a paragraph that could have been any rumor. The comments did their choreography. I carried the plant to the sink and let water talk to its roots like a promise we could keep. That night, we turned our phones face down and cooked like people who still believe heat tells the truth. On a windy Thursday, Noah sent a single word, weather, and we met him by the vent where rain negotiates with steel. He showed us which scupper floods first, where to stand when lightning auditions near cables, and how to hear the almost silent pause that means the damper will miss its cue without kindness. He didn't ask about the photo. We didn't say his name out loud. 3 people wide beneath a building that has decided to forgive, we let the storm remove adjectives we didn't need. Life kept refusing to be purchased. Marcus kept sending commas that wanted homes. Julian kept returning them with better ones. The plant kept inventing a shade of green that turns vanity domestic. We kept our calendar squares blank on purpose, because blanks are the only promises rooms respect. Sometimes, near midnight, we walk past the Eon and look up. From the street you can't see the hand that hovered like punctuation, or the small, decent posture of a man who teaches heavy air to be gentle. You can only see a disciplined glow pretending not to belong to anyone. That's as it should be. We circle the block and go home without letting the building perform at us. He takes my wrist like a man reteaching himself the grammar of doors. I think about the bridge and the 2 minutes that were enough, about how some rooms try to own you and others teach you how to leave correctly. Sometimes I think about Marcus paused by a reflection that wouldn't flatter him. Sometimes I think about Noah's line, "I opened a door," and how it's the only biography I want for this version of us. Tonight's square is empty. We're leaving it that way. Let the museum keep its glass and the city its applause. We have the receiving bay, a plant we refuse to let die, and the quiet grammar of a decision that knows where it belongs. Not in the rumor, not in the photo, but in the mouth that learned to say come home and mean it. If we get caught again, let it be by each other. The rest of the world can rehearse virtue. We'll be in the room that doesn't need it, counting breaths until they sound like cables settling into kindness, and a morning we can afford, and calling that enough.